Hello, everyone, and welcome to Footy Judge Mode. This is going to be a special episode. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. We're talking Manchester United. We're talking ownership. How Man United fans feel. Is it doom and gloom? Are they ever going to be back, or the tides have shifted for the unseeable future, as Flawless said yesterday, until they change the ownership? Manchester City on the rise, Manchester United going down. But I'm here with two fantastic, great, amazing guests to talk about it. Of course, they're going to be getting everything off their chest. And the first one, of course, that is here, you guys know from the thumbnail, of course, but make sure first, when you lock in, you like the video, you subscribe, your super chats are appreciated, of course. We're going to hear everything from them, but the first one is someone you guys see all the time on other channels, but it's the first time I have him here on my channel, of course. It's the one and only Michael Griggs is here. How are you doing, my man? How are you doing?
Doing good, bro. Thank you for having me on. It's been a minute since we spoke. And yeah, happy to discuss. I'm sure there's a lot to discuss after what happened yesterday. And of course, make sure everyone likes the video and supports Mo. And yeah, let's talk.
The second guest is someone had a special place in my heart because he did a video with me 2 years ago, one-on-one. We spoke about the Premier League before I even be on the football terrace, before I be on Never a Foul. To be honest, this guy knows his football, knows what to talk about. Sometimes his takes are different than other people, but he never says something without explaining it. This guy, to be honest, is someone I appreciate his opinion and I like to talk to him. That's why I invited him today, because he will give you the juice. He will give you everything you want to know. It's the one and only, of course. It's Sunshine Neji. Welcome, my man. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. How are you guys feeling?
No, it's all good, man. Thank you so much for having me first and foremost, man. It's an absolute pleasure. And 2 years ago, bro, that's gone by just like that. I didn't even remember, I said, 2 years, that's crazy. So now, thank you for having me, man. And obviously, make sure you guys, you already know what it is, man. Anyone that's a decent YouTube content creator and a good person, you have to go like, subscribe, and do all that stuff because it does help. And Mo's been even more than 2 years doing this thing. So make sure you go do that, people. But thank you for having me, Mo. It's an absolute pleasure.
Like the video, subscribe, and I'm gonna start right away. Subscribe to the channel. Your super chats are welcome. Your support to the channel is welcome as well. Give me to 50 likes. You cannot step on the video without liking it. Check out the membership. It's in the description. You get to be on a show with me. I'm gonna do a show for members only. Get us to 50 likes so we get more people to watch us. I'm gonna start right away. I'm gonna start with Ms. Michael, to be honest. You heard the news yesterday. What was the feeling? Right after you saw that Fabrizio tweet, of course, for the people that don't know, Sheikh Jassim is out of the race for taking over Manchester United. His offer, which doubled his original offer of 3.5 billion, he offered 7 billion plus clear the debt plus 1.5 billion investment, and the Glazers somehow, for some reason, rejected him. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but they rejected him. How was that feeling after you heard that, Michael?
It was an expected decision, to be honest. I expected Sheikh Jassim or the Qatar group to back out once I heard about Ratcliffe's minority stake that he wanted to do that, but still hurt a little bit. At first I'm like, it's over. The initial hot reaction that you get when you get bad news. I'm like, it's over. How can they do that? But eventually then I calmed down, but it was like the loss of feeling of endless opportunities that Qatar could have brought Man United. That was why I wanted Qatar so much. You see the money that they offered. When someone offers you double the market value, you're thinking, wow, that's an easy deal to take. Most sensible businessman would take that deal. And he was gonna offer 2 billion for the club's off the field facilities, like the stadium, the training ground. He would have put money into Manchester as well, all around the stadium. The players that he could have bought, because we all know Qatar has so much money. Obviously, that's never been an issue for Man United in terms of spending money on players. We spend with the best of them, but it's just the fact that they could have brought us. But after like about an hour, I calmed down and I'm like, it's not the end of the world. We've had worse things happen to us. And I started looking more into Ratcliffe. We'll talk about that, what he could bring as well. But my initial reaction was to like hurt. I'm like, this probably, I was expecting it, but even when you expect bad news, when you actually get it, you still feel hurt about it.
And Najee, from your side, we kind of spoke on WhatsApp yesterday, and I know, but can you tell the people how you felt after it?
I was numb. That was my initial feeling. I was just numb. I wasn't vexed. I wasn't peed off. Because I didn't have any hope. I was just leaving it in the balance of I'll see what happens. So I feel numb given the situation. I didn't expect it to go through personally, and I know that sounds quite easy, like a knockoff. I'm not one of those people, as you know. Very calculated in my thoughts and ideas, and the conclusion I got to was a question, and I asked the question more to myself, and I've been asking it forever, and no one's ever been able to give me an answer, and I'm still waiting. And that's not from an arrogance perspective, just on a genuine one. And that question goes, so what makes people think that the Glazers are going to stop everything they've done and change their priority just to put football first? Why do people believe that is possible? Their initial reason for buying the club was not to put football first. So why would they change their business model just for a fan? Like, it doesn't make no sense to me. And the answer I've only got for that is they won't. So if they don't and won't, and no one can challenge that theory, then why are we having these expectations of they're going to do what's right by the club? So It makes no sense to me. So, like I said to you in the WhatsApp group chat, which you wanted me to say, but again, it's no skin off my nose.
I don't want you to say. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to say what you think.
Well, I'll tell you.
I really don't want you to say anything.
Listen,
it's up to you, bro.
No, it's true. But again, I'll always be honest. I'll keep it 100%. I said I'll take relegation if it meant that the Glazers left, and that's the only logical thing to take. Because for me personally, like I said, if the fans aren't going to be able to boycott enough, and the key word is enough. I'm not saying everybody, because everyone's got their own personal attachments and reasons, and they're entitled to do that. That's why I'll never mock anyone for going games or whatnot. But really and truly, if everyone was able to do enough by their own standards, really and truly, they're still going to get their money. They're still going to do their thing. So let's knock that on the head and go, what's realistic? And it's going to take about 20 years for us to get relegated, because the trajectory we're on is declining, but it's really slow. So I would take relegation if it meant if we were able to boycott games, get games cancelled, get points deducted from the team.
But I'm sorry, but you're taking away from the people that stay. Number one, the people that live in Manchester, this is a family tradition. I'm just being devil's advocate here, and also I'm seeing it from someone who went to England and went to games, and I saw how people just go to the games, take their kids. Family traditions, ownership or not ownership, it's a family tradition, and you're asking them to give it up for the good of the club or the good of the fans. But these people, they take it as this is our family's tradition. We're not going to give it up, but you're asking them to give it up.
Give it up in what sense?
Don't go to the games, boycott the games.
I know, like I've just said to you, boycotting games, not going into state. I didn't say they had to. What I'm saying to you is the reality is everybody's got their own emotional attachments. So this is why I said I don't judge them to go, you should do this. The reality is we should all do that. That if that's what we really want deep down, tough love, that's what we should do.
Yeah.
The other part of it is not everyone can do it. It's not like we are Halifax Town, no disrespect, or Crawley, where the population is smaller in the fan base, so it's much easier to come together. The biggest club I've ever seen being able to do it and did it successfully was AC Milan. When you saw, and you may know this, because obviously with the Italian connections yourself, you experienced that, how AC Milan did it. That's what Man United fans need to do. Now, just because I say that doesn't mean I'm now judging people who have an emotional attachment or different connections to the club. However, because that reality is so far gone, it's going to be difficult, which has been proven. Let's put that to one side and just go, okay, well, what else can we do? There isn't a lot else we can do. So the reality is this, Mo. We're going to be stuck with them, and we are going to be forever, because not everyone can pull in the same direction. And even when people try to, people's ego and pride get in the way, and they start fighting with each other because they want to take a moral high ground of, well, I do this and you do this. Really and truly, it should be a case of, what are you willing to do? What am I willing to do? And then accept that some people may be able to give up their seat, their season ticket, whatever, and some people won't. Let's not have a discussion or a disagreement about that. Let's just say, okay, well, if 100% of the fan base are doing the most that they can do, then that should be enough. Because really and truly, if the Glazers, let's say, for example, get a new shirt sponsorship deal, they get that money up front. It's not so much that the shirt sales are what's bringing in the money. They have quotas to reach. So let's say they say, okay, well, we need to sell. And again, I'm going to use a really small number because it's not accurate, but for the point of the argument, let's say we need to sell 100 shirt sales. You've promised us 100 shirt sales, 100, but you've only been able to provide 35. Then that means they have not hit their quota. So does that mean that we need all of the 100 people to not buy a shirt? Or is that going to be a simple case of, well, we just don't need to hit the quotas? And there are some people that are willing, like I said, to take that step back and go, I'm not willing to put loads of money in. I'm not willing to spend here. You have to accept that and say, okay, you've done enough. If that's all you're honestly, within yourself, honestly, that's all you can do, then I have to shake your hand and say, well done, because it's difficult. So there are some people like myself where I'll just go, you know what?
So let me get, so Michael is a global fan. People, with almost 100 people here off the bat, and we're not even on 50 likes. The like button is appreciated. The subscribe, if you're new, of course, please like the video. Get us to 50 likes, and your super chats are appreciated. Get involved in the conversation, of course. And Digital Drifter just gifted 1 membership. Thank you so much. Gifts of memberships are there. You can actually gift memberships. Check out the memberships in the description, of course, of the video, where you can actually, someone is have the PlayStation or something. It's a sound.
Yeah, I've just locked it off. My bad.
All right, no worries. Yeah. But guys, hit that like button, of course. And Kevin here, Jimenez, is agreeing with Sunshine. He's saying early agreement with Sunshine. Big up, Sunshine. Thank you for the super chat, my man. Thank you, Kevin. Your support is appreciated, people. So hit that like button and get me to 50 likes right off the bat so we can get more people here. A global fan of Michael, who doesn't go to the games as often, just whenever he finishes. And I think, this is my opinion, global fans, it what makes Manchester United as big as they are. Because this is what brings the money, basically. People watch it on TV in Asia, Africa, because without the TV money, well, everybody is equal. So, Michael, from your point of view, how do you think people should approach this? Would you be, if you talk to the local fans, would you tell them to boycott? Because so you're not getting affected, right? You're still watching the football. Would you tell them to boycott?
Personally, I would personally tell them to boycott. I think that's probably like the most effective method of like protesting. Obviously, that's the most effective method. Not what we did against Liverpool in that COVID, the lockdown game where they like fans stormed the pitch and everything. Obviously, that might have gone a little too far. But I think boycotting is probably the best way. But the only thing is, a club of the stature of Man United and how many fans want to go to games, it's so hard to boycott to the extent that you need to, because we even saw it with the Galatasaray game, right? That stadium was filled with as much Galatasaray fans as it was Man United fans, because Man United, I think they kicked out one of the ultra groups. I think was it the Red Army? Like they basically took their seats away and they sold it to Galatasaray fans. So what's to say that the Glazers and Man United, so a lot of fans stopped going, right? They could easily revoke their ticket and then sell it to someone else. We know how much of a penny pinchers they are. We know how like sleazy they can be, and they can easily sell that. So it's to the point where the fans could boycott, but I just don't think it'll be as effective at a club as big as Man United and how many fans actually want to go see the game at Old Trafford. I know San Siro, AC Milan, it worked, but no offense, like AC Milan, I just think more fans will go to Old Trafford more than San Siro, in my opinion, because we see how many fans, like Asia, there's so many people from Asia, because Man United is so big over there, that just travel. For example, me, I want to come to Old Trafford in 2024 to go watch the game. But this part of me feel a little like guilty because I'm kind of like funding them a little bit, but it's still like you want to experience the feeling of watching your team live for like the first time, even though Old Trafford is not the best stadium to go to right now because it's, as people call it, old toilet. But you still want to experience walking up those steps and seeing that pitch. So I can't blame people for not wanting to boycott. Everyone has the right to their own like opinion. And also, some fans can't even afford to boycott that many games because you pay that much for your ticket. You want to enjoy what you paid for, because in these conditions, it's not always the best time to waste money. So I would boycott, but I also don't blame anyone for not boycotting, because at the end of the day, it's your own decision.
Yeah. Listen, it's very hard thing to do, because I actually think this is something that you guys probably didn't hear before. The Glazers aren't at Man United for the actual revenue of Man United. Actually, Man United does not make a lot of profit. Football in general aren't profitable business. It's a name business. You're associated with Manchester United Football Club. That's what makes you the money. That's the marketing. Because if you look at the numbers of Man United, the profit you make is barely 50 million a year. The profit, which is what goes to their pocket. The difference is being attached to Manchester United is a big thing. What they don't understand is that if it keeps going like this, that name, Manchester United, in 10, 15 years, won't be as much as now, wouldn't be as worth it as now. They're assuming that the club will keep growing, that the fan base will keep growing. And I'm telling you, I'm here from America. I don't see a lot of kids wearing Manchester United jersey. I don't. I see Manchester City. I now see Newcastle, believe it or not. I don't see kids wearing Manchester United jersey like 10 years ago like 10 years ago, when I just moved here, I saw kids wearing Manchester. In Egypt, it was Manchester United when I was there. Kids wearing Manchester United. Go to Egypt now. People are not wearing Manchester United jerseys anymore. That means the fan base in 10, 15 years, it will get smaller and smaller, because these kids will be 20 years old. These are the ones who will buy jerseys. These are the ones who will watch the games. That's the problem. That's the problem. So for me, this is what they don't understand. But let's talk a little bit about Sir Jim. I don't know anything about him. I know he owns something in a business company, something in Nice. What, Naji, even him coming for 25%, is that even at least a cameo in there? Is there something good to look at this, or no? Or you don't think so?
I think initially it's always going to be a no, because the biggest issue United fans, I'm not going to speak for every United fan because I can't, but majority ones that I've either spoken to or had the pleasure to connect with, most of them still see the Glazers there. So the breakdown so far of having Sir Jim in is that he is going for 25%, I believe. The part that he will be having control over is the footballing structure side. So from a basic standpoint and a bit of banter, he's basically a director of football. He's a lot more than that, but ultimately he has that role to ultimately go in there and restructure the football inside. Now, here's the issue. If the Glazers still have that business model, because remember, I asked the question at the start, why would they change their business model just to put football first? Now, if their business model is still upheld and it's still afloat, then that's what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to be working under. So it's not to say no, it can't work, but it's a big question of, is that structure going to get torn apart? Or is it a case of, no, we own most of the club still. We're still going to want to take our dividends if we can. We're still going to only give you a certain amount of money. You now need to go and find out how you can go and bring your own money in, etc., etc. I don't know how the business works too tough, but I'm assuming along those lines that that's what will happen. So now it's a case of, okay, Sir Jim, you want to put football first, and you want to do this, but now you're going to have one hand tied behind your back because of the owners, and then also because you're part owner, you now have to go and find the funds yourself. Now, the other bigger issues apart from what I've just spoken to you about is Sir Jim's trying to buy it on a loan. The debt would still be over the club, not over Ineos. He doesn't have enough money to go and actually repair the stadium that's necessary, invest into the stadium and the facilities, and then that's only half of the story. Then you've also got to look at the team, the structure, what Man United want to do, the people and the professionals behind the scenes. So how is he going to afford all of this? This is why we wanted a full sale. If you can't even afford the whole thing, it's a case of, okay, is he going to play the slow game, get his foot in the door? Then that means United fans, he's got two choices. We either sit there, brace for even more restructuring in the hope that it goes in the right way, but that's going to take 3, 4, 5 years maybe. Can we wait that long? Or is it going to be a simple case of, no, the Glazers are going to stop their structure and business because they're looking to actually sell long term? Now, I'll be honest. if they were looking to sell long term, they would have taken the money that Sheikh Jassim was offering. But no, they're clearly after investors. So I don't believe that long term. And again, it's my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm just guessing now. But I'm having an intelligent guess to go, well, they're going to be trying to stick around. They want to leech us for more money, and ultimately they've just taken some money off of Sir Jim as an investor, so they can carry on their stupidness. Well, I'm not going to say
yeah, of
stupidness,
course,
their
100%.
business model, and that to me is all it is. So I just don't see how we progress here. I've got to see some other information. I've got to see things that I probably didn't think about right now. But off the top of my head, I just don't see the positive stance of having him there. It's just it enables the Glazers to stay longer. They continue to carry on making their money, and they give a deception to the fans that they're putting football first by giving Sir Jim that role. It makes no sense to me. So Man United as a football club is finished, and it's been it's fact. It's fact. It's been done for a long time, and maybe
I'm gonna come to that if it's finished or not, because I believe that there are ways to fix a little bit short term without changing ownership. It happened. I've seen it. It
interesting.
works. It works. It's just all about like assigning the right ones. Do you trust the owners? No, but it can be done. People hit that like button for us. We're almost at 150 people here. Hit that like, get us to 100 likes. The like button is how this channel grow, how this channel get more people here. Hit that like button for me underneath your live chat. The like button looks like a thumbs up. Don't forget that. It's very important. Ahmed Suleiman gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Ahmed. So if you become a member now, thanks to Ahmed, who just gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Ahmed, for that. And Craig Lee is saying Sheikh Jim paying 2 billion to be the director of finance or the director of football. Is it going to be the director of football? I don't think it's going to be the director of football. But hit that like button, people. I'm going to come to Michael. I'm going to ask him, so forget the Glazers stay, all that shit. How do you think the football can be fixed? Is there a way to fix the football? Is there a manager you think that can fix it even short term?
I do think like with the Ratcliffe, when I look at like the deal, I'm okay with it for right now, as long as he actually does do the full takeover within the next 2 to 3 years. That's like the mandatory part for me, which I think he will do. I think we saw it like at Arsenal too. The Kroenkes did a similar thing. They just kept buying shares and shares and shares until eventually they took over, until Josh and Stan took over the full club and they kicked everyone out. I think that's what Ratcliffe is trying to do. So he knew that the Glazers.
Hold on. Why would they do that if that was their plan to give it up in 3 years? Why wouldn't they take the 8 billion that the Qatari offered?
Because Ratcliffe's because the 25% at 1.25 billion is a bigger technically profit for them than it was for Sheikh Jassim to offer the 8 billion. Because I think they're banking on Ratcliffe's investment to increase the value of the club.
Increase the value of the club.
Yeah, because let's be real. There's a lot of money coming into football right now. The new Champions League format next year, they're gonna want to be here for that because that's gonna be even more TV money for it. That's gonna be even more money into there. I think there's something about like Saudi Arabia, like if maybe Saudi Arabia come into Europe eventually within the next 2 years.
What do you mean Saudi Arabia come into Europe? I'm sorry.
Like the league, like into like Champions League and stuff like that. Maybe creating a more continental Super League.
All right.
Yeah, something like that. They're banking on more money coming into football. Maybe there's like another Prem TV deal coming up. They're banking on more money coming into football. But with Ratcliffe, I like the fact that he is going for the sporting side first because I think he's going to clear house at the top. I don't think he'll be.
Who's going to clear house? I'm sorry. What
Ratcliffe,
do you mean?
Because he's taking over the full sporting side. Like sporting decisions. Those are all on him now. So I think he's going to start clearing at the top. I've heard the Paul Mitchell links, the director of football that was at Monaco that left. He's a free agent now, and he's a big Man United fan. He's wanted to come back to the Premier League. He even has a house near Manchester. So I think he's going to start with that side first. He's going to start fixing that. I think he's going to clear a house up there, which I think is a good thing. And I think that's the first area of attack that he's going to do. He's going to get more football people upstairs. Eric Ten Hag's position is obviously safe. That's been said by The Athletic, that he's the only pretty much person that's safe in terms of the sporting side right now. So I think that's good from Ratcliffe. And after that, in terms of the stadium, I have a question though, because we know about Ratcliffe's loan, but was he only taking out loans when he was putting in a full takeover bid for like the 69%? Because that bid was about 5 billion. So did he take out a loan for the 1.25 billion that he's about to put in? Or if he didn't, then that equals up more money for him to spend maybe on a stadium, potentially. That's the questions I have to ask. And also the other question I have is, you have the 25%, right? But is it only sporting decisions, or do you still have vote power for voting rights? Because at the end of the day, he could have the power for the sporting decisions, right? But if the Glazers still have all the voting shares, I don't know if he has any voting shares. If they have all the voting shares, and they could basically negate anything that he could do. That's my question for like I need that answer before I fully make my judgment. But
Yeah.
I see some sort of a positive outlook from him taking the sporting director spot.
You're a positive guy, Michael.
But because at the end of the day, from what I heard is that he will have majority of the club within the next 2 years and 100% within the next 3 to 6 years. That's what I've heard. So I'm basically thinking.
But don't you think that that's the saying that is just to silence the fans?
It could be, but
They said we're selling the club. They said we're selling the club. They said we're selling the club to the highest bidder. They said they wanted out. And then where are we now? October. They started this in May. 5 months later, the Glazers still, even if that deal goes through, they still own 75%. This is the reality, Michael.
Well, they
This is
technically
it.
don't own 75.
This is the reality.
Don't own 75%.
They said that already before. Like, I've seen this movie again. We've seen it 5 months ago. We're out. We want to sell the club. The highest bidder, 5 million, no 6 billion, no 8 billion. And now, at the end of the day, where are they? 75%.
I just when you look at football takeovers, right? Most of these happen like this. Most football takeovers happen with a person buying shares in the club, and eventually they start buying more.
But buying more than 25%.
Not really.
Tuning from Inter bought more than that. The Milan people bought more than that. It's you buy 25%. You still don't have the majority of
how
the
much
vote.
should they pay for the 25%? Ratcliffe paid 1.2 billion for 25%. That's an insane. Everyone has said that he paid an insane amount. Even the Qatari said that he overpaid for that 25%. The 25% of the club is now worth 1.25 billion because the whole club itself is only worth 3.5 billion. So he paid an extraordinary amount for it. So for me, if you're gonna pay that much of an amount for 25%, I'm gonna assume logically that you have a long-term vision for the club and that you eventually look to take it over. Otherwise, then Jim Ratcliffe is just not well in the head, basically.
Najee, what do you think? Guys, can we get to 100 likes before Najee says what he was going to say now? Guys, we're almost at 200 people, but if you get it to 100 likes, we will get to 200 people eventually. So the like button underneath your live chat. The like button is underneath your live chat. If you're on your cell phone, close the live chat, hit that like button and come back. And if you're on your computer, it's underneath the video. Of course, there is one super chat I want to do here from Kevin Jimenez. Is saying keyword heard. You know the Glazers, Griggs. You know the Glazers. It's Najee, football. People want to hear about the football. Is there a coach? Do you think if Man United hired De Zerbi tomorrow? Do you think if Man United hire Pep Guardiola tomorrow? No, it's not going to be fixed. You're telling me it's not going to look better than now.
What you have to understand.
Are you really convinced, or you're just saying that because you hate the Glazers?
No. Right. To those people, go and find me a club that has a really poor footballing structure, that has been successful and consistently dominant in their career. You will not find one. Why? So I tried to find one myself. Me and a bunch of other people that I speak to, we tried to find one ourselves. We go deep on this. People have this FIFA notion that you can go be the manager, you can go buy the players and everything's all good. Football structure is bang on. Brighton are a pinnacle of that. The most recent club we can use. The football structure of Brighton is absolutely impeccable. People were talking about Moise Caicedo. People were talking about Graham Potter before he left. People were talking about those are the reasons why they're doing so well. No, when you have a football structure, you can remove managers and players and replace them with profiles because the structure allows you to, and the people that brought those players in the first place know where to look to go and do that. So nothing actually changes because your structure is solid. And people have this ideology that if you bring in a manager because you play a type of way, it's going to work out. So, for example, I'll tell you why the structure, a simple situation that Man United is going through at the moment in Ten Hag. We look at the Harry Maguire situation. You have a player that he doesn't want, that he wants to get rid of. He was bought for 80 million outright, not in installments, 80 million outright given. So, first question is, why have we spent, which banker, we can look at Woodward if you want to, we can name names. Why is a banker going to spend 80 million straight outright on a player and then give 190k a week to him?
Well,
on a player that isn't proven.
Van Dijk was the
These-
same, and he
These
fixed
type of
Liverpool.
decisions, Mo, right? Although very small, have massive detrimental effects. Why? Because you have bankers and businessmen in certain situations in that club. Now, for example, now we want to get rid of a player. We've already spent 80 million. He's on 190k a week. Players lose their value at Manchester United because the way we are run, because again, we're not successful, and because players are walking into a broken system and a broken team amongst other players that were bought for different managers with different footballing styles and abilities. And we've made them feel better than what they are because one, they represent Man United, two, they're on stupid money. So when they underperform, we now have to go and sell them. So let's say, okay, we want to go sell Maguire for 30 million. No problem. But why would the Glazers not sign it off? Because they would have to pay Maguire more money to then sell him. Why? Not because he's a player that the manager doesn't want, but because he's an asset. Players are assets. So now they have something to protect from a financial business perspective, as opposed to saying, let's go and get this manager some money because we need to put football first. So there are small, intricate details that are going on behind the scenes that are having knock-on effects. That's happened with every single manager. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, rate him or not? It's not about rating him. Listen to what he said. They told me I can only have 3 signings maximum that are my first choice. How is that even going to happen? We're also then buying commercial signings. Look at how we got Ronaldo. Manager didn't want him, but we had to sell it in such a way, comparing him to Tom Brady. We had to compare him to Tom Brady, and 3 weeks before that, correct me if I'm wrong, we needed a midfielder. Glazers came out and said, we have to sell to buy. But then 3 weeks later, we get Ronaldo. What's the reason we get Ronaldo? Because we had to pitch it in such a way from a business perspective. Ronaldo's a global superstar. If you spend on his wages, this, you'll earn it back within 3 days. Bang. They earn their money. So they're thinking like a business, not from a footballing perspective. And you have businessmen and bankers making these decisions, Mo. So nothing really and truly is going to happen. So when you talk about, when rival fans talk about how much you've spent, it's not about how much is spent. It is how it is spent and why it is spent. And the people that is doing the spending is not doing it, in my opinion, in a way that is in alignment with good footballing logics and reasoning. So they're doing it with their hand tied behind their back. If a manager comes in, you look at Jose Mourinho, he comes in, one of the greatest CVs ever, probably a GOAT of the modern game and probably early 2000s. He comes in, you have these expectations on a great manager. He's now dealing with players that don't suit his style. He wanted to buy older players because why? His football mantra is, please excuse me, his football mantra is, I'm buying experience. That's okay, no problem. Buy experience. But then you've got the whole family, you've got the whole fan base and the Man United family going, well, we don't want that. What about our young players? Rashford, da. He doesn't develop players. He gets them when they're ready to go. So and I've got no issue with this. What I'm trying to show you is we sack that manager. We bring a new manager in who plays completely different ideologies. You've got players from the previous manager that's still there that you can't get rid of for the reasons I've just given you. So now a manager's stuck with those players. So it's a repetitive cycle, and it only gets worse because every manager you do it to, the next manager, like Ten Hag, has to then deal with Van Gaal problems, has to deal with Jose's problems, has to then deal with Ollie's problems. So how can you tell me a football structure that is run this way is going to allow a manager such as Ten Hag to go and undo these issues? Pep Guardiola in his first season keeps Joe Hart, gets rid of him, buys Bravo. After he buys Bravo, gets rid, says not good enough, goes to Edison. Manchester United, every signing Manchester United makes right now has to work, Mo. Because we can't go. Onana, for example, if he flops this season, do you think next season we can go and sell Onana?
No, you won't.
We won't. Why? Because he's an asset. Because we've spent too much money. Jadon Sancho, another one. I'm okay for getting rid of players. I don't care whether I like them or not. The reality of the situation is...
Let me interject here.
Yeah, go for it.
Let me ask you a question. We have over 200 people, and I want the likes to be 100. Do you believe that Spurs are in a bad place as well, like before Ange Postecoglou? Do you believe the ownership was shit? Daniel Levy running the club wrong way, second manager before finals, not buying the right players, extending
Yes.
contracts when you should? Do you think Spurs now look better than Manchester United?
On the pitch, yes.
Okay. So do you think the assets of them increased in value? Do you think that the likes of Pedro Porro, the likes of Emerson Royal, the likes of Bissouma, Sar, Son, Kulusevski increased in value, right? What is it that down for? Who did that? It's the right
In, in my
assignment.
in my opinion, of course, the manager's had an incredible
Exactly.
impact. And when you look at from a
But that's my
perspective of
point, Naji. You can make it. Ange Postecoglou isn't happy with Eric Dyer. Ange Postecoglou isn't going to be happy with
correct,
Davis. Isn't going to be happy with Hoiberg or Skip. But he's working with what he has and making it look better. So
correct.
he will get the next player that will be within the system. But there is like 10 players that he works with. The problem with Manchester United is that, and I'm not putting it on Ten Hag, it starts from your employer, of course. But the manager can do his job at least to get results and get the team to have a little bit of a system that a new element can come in and at least get embedded.
Here's the thing.
Onana's confidence is on the ground. I am an Inter fan. I thought you robbed us with that price. He was one of the best goalkeepers, and it's not only with his feet. He used to save us in games. In the Champions League, he had clean sheets, and it's not down to the defense. He made clutch saves.
Yeah.
At Man United, it looks like he cut his hand. It's confidence. He cannot pass the ball anymore. It's a system thing. If you take Kevin De Bruyne tomorrow and you put him at Manchester United, his output and his style of play will be 50% of what he can do at Manchester City. And it's not only because of the owners. For some reason at Manchester United, you have cancer in the club in terms of some players are, but your manager is also has to be part of this because he's not brave enough.
Here's the thing, Mo.
It's part of it. I just want to be the football.
No, I'm with you, and I appreciate the conversation. But here's the context that people are missing. Anomalies can happen in football. Andrew's been there. He's done an incredible job, but the season has not finished.
Yes.
So if we're going to do an honest comparison, we'll look at Ten Hag's first season, we'll look at Ange's first season up to the same point, because this is the second season for Ten Hag. And I'll tell you, and I'll give you context.
So you believe Ange will fail?
I don't believe he will.
Or you think nobody can see the future, but you think under Daniel Levy it is.
I don't believe Ange will fail, but I believe he can fail. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And I don't believe he will fail because he's building a foundation at the moment. And I claim a lot of people made a big thing about Harry Kane being so good, and I made it before Harry Kane left. I said, really and truly, Harry Kane leaving will be a benefit of Tottenham. And the reason I said that is because it puts more emphasis on the players that are there to step up and do a job. Sometimes you can become so heavily reliant on other people's abilities that you forget that you have your own. And there's a lot of good players in that team, in my honest opinion, that have ability. But away from that point, my point being regarding Ten Hag, I've got no issue Ten Hag making mistakes doing X, Y, Z. But what people are failing to realize, that first season, the first signing that he really wanted to implement his style was Frankie de Jong. Why? Because the pivotal role, the number 6, the ball carrier, was the most important part.
But they don't want to sell him.
So I'm not saying we should have got him, but hear what I'm saying. I'm not saying we should have got him. What I'm saying to you, the reality is we got a Casemiro, and what I'm alluding to, Mo, is that we play a different style of football last season in the sense of the profiles that we brought in allowed us to play his type of way. So I looked at last season and gone, we had one of the best defensive records in Europe. Even with De Gea's mistakes, we had one of the best defensive records in Europe. Fact. Yeah, I can't argue facts. It is what it is. They were there for everyone to see. Same in Europe. But this season, what's happened? He's taken out a goalkeeper, a different profile. He's brought in a Mason Mount. I've got no issue with those signings. I have no issue with those signings. But what the consequence of those signings are, what people didn't want to allude to, but I spoke about it, was that profile changes have changed so much that the way we now have to play football is different. And now certain players are being exposed because they are now playing in a system that's slightly different from last season. So technically, when you make drastic changes as such, it's going to take even more time to go and get it right. Last season, Ten Hag had to adapt.
Yes,
this season, he's gone into the season with the signings he's bought and said, yes, there's injuries, don't get me wrong, but the key signings he's made have been to for a future and a vision of a way he wants to play football. And sadly, there are consequences to that because we don't have the profiles to maintain that style of football. And just come in at Tottenham, taking the players he's got, and whether he's adapted his style or adapted to the players' needs, that's okay. He's got the time to do that. At Manchester United, Ten Hag won't have that time. So the biggest issue for me, what Ten Hag has done, in my opinion, is prioritized a little bit too far. In my honest opinion, he should have maintained what he had last season, maintain the system and style that he wanted to do, and go and get clinical forwards that would allow him to add the goals, which was the main issue last season for Man United, statistically proven as well, to then make that gap. That way, he has 2 seasons of consistency. He has 2 seasons where people appreciate him, 2 seasons where the pressure's less on him, and then the season after, you can then go and try and play, the ideal football that you want to do, because you can then go and get the players that you need to replace. However, biggest issue, again, where it comes back to the owners, Mo, is that, like I've just told you, there's no way that we can be Man City and go and we should be, but should, will, could is not reality. The reality is we can't go and get 6, 7, 8 players in to go and play that system he wants to do. He's got to do it slowly. And making a profile change like Onana, making a profile change like Mount, in that midfield is now making us play a different way. But there are certain players that are struggling to adapt. That doesn't mean they're not quality. It just shows that he needs to get rid. And trying to get rid of McTominay, trying to get rid of Harry Maguire, etc., which we should have been able to do, but the reasons we weren't able to do it is because of our structure, not because no one wanted them, means that he can no longer get those replacements. So he's having to adapt again. He's now going through a little sticky patch where he's made drastic changes, and now that needs the fans' patience. Question is, will the fans give him that patience, and will they have more time?
That's Michael then. Do you think Ten Hag? Okay, I have 2 questions for you, Michael. No, the number 1 question is, guys, send your super chats in. Check out the memberships in the description. Of course, your support is appreciated for the channel. The like button goes a long way because it gets more people here. We have over 200 people here, which is, I really appreciate that.
Smash the like, people, man.
Smash the like button, people. Michael, number 1, do you think every manager should have all his players? And do you believe every manager gets all his players before he start playing the system? And the second thing, do you think he will be given time, Ten Hag, to do that, if that's what you think?
Well, the first thing, I don't think a manager gets all his players. I think the club typically should have a structure where you have a set philosophy on the type of players you buy, because every club has a set philosophy. Like, let's say Brighton, for example, right? Their buying structure is they buy young players, and if they buy older players, it's always on a free transfer. They never pay a fee for any player probably over 25. Us, if like Neji mentioned, we like the young. How do you go from the young to Casemiro? Like, that makes no sense to me. They're 2 of the most polar opposite of player you can see in the world. Like, you cannot find 2 most polar opposites. You have one player that's press resistant, can ball carry, amazing on the ball, maybe has some defensive deficiencies. Casemiro, we've seen him on the ball, not the greatest at all, but obviously defensively he's always been astute. That's always been the problem at Man United, and we even saw it this summer. The recruitment team at Ten Hag had 2 different philosophies. I think we only signed 2 players that recruitment wanted. The other ones we all went with Ten Hag. I think Ten Hag has had too much power. I said that last year too. I said this football club, they have so many terrible people upstairs that have no idea what to do with football, that they place all the onus on the manager, because he's meant to be obviously the football guy because he's the manager and he's meant to be the know-it-all. But that's not how it works. Look at Klopp, for example, at Liverpool, who typically had with Michael Edwards. Klopp said, I wanted Julian Brandt. Michael Edwards said, no, he doesn't really fit our model, and I think we could do better. Who did he go get? Mo Salah. And look what Mo Salah has done.
That was a lucky signing.
No, it was a lucky signing, but I'm saying, like,
nobody knew that Mo Salah will come in bank 34 goals.
No, but the director of football should have the idea of, your manager should always have 3 targets, right? Every position that he wants, he should have 3.
Yeah, Pep Guardiola has the same.
Target B, target C. Originally, you go for target
so
A.
You tell me that Casemiro wasn't one of them at all.
I think he was.
Casemiro.
I think
Ten Hag didn't want Casemiro.
I think Ten Hag wanted him a little bit after he lost a 4-0 to Brentford. I think he got spooked by the Premier League and the physicality. He's like, okay, I'm going to have to do some damage control. Casemiro is probably the best player to do damage control because he's one of the best defensive midfielders in Europe. And Ten Hag, I think, clocked that he needs to be a little bit more pragmatic last year. But now the issue is we have this season, right? He wants to play more attacking football. But the thing is, last year, I think he overachieved to the extent that it changed the expectations of the fan base to the point that we can't meet those expectations because now the fan base, including me this season, expected, okay, we finished third last year, right? So typically you improve from that. Maybe you still finish third, but you close the gap on the top 2 teams. So we did that. But in doing that, we also changed our style of play to the style of play that these players don't fit. For example, Casemiro does not fit the style of play. Why? Not because of like who he is as a player. First of all, he's aging and he can't cover the ground that Ten Hag wants to do. Do I think that Ten Hag should also now fix the system a little bit? Yes, because I think that he should become a little bit more pragmatic now because it's clear that these players physically look like the worst physical players in Europe. Our players look shot. We already have 16 injuries. We're probably going to get more. With Casemiro already got injured for Brazil this past week. So he needs to do something. But I think as a football club, you need to kind of have a set philosophy in the transfer market, an age group that you always target. For example, let's say we get Paul Mitchell, right? His philosophy is only players under 25 and under. That's his philosophy. That's all he does. That's what Monaco has had, like, with the exception of a couple signings.
Bro, you're not Monaco. You're Manchester
I know we're not
United.
Monaco, but I'm saying like you need to bring a sporting director that has a vision. What is John Murtaugh's vision? I still want to know what John Murtaugh's vision is as director of football. What is your vision at this football club? What profile of players do you want to buy? Do you only want to listen to the manager, which for me is always wrong? A manager should never have the full say. Pep doesn't have the full say at Man City. He brings his players to the board. Do you guys think that Jack Grealish was Pep's number 1 option at left wing? I doubt that Pep really wanted to spend 100 mil on Jack Grealish. There's no way Pep wanted to do that. So you need the club needs to find it. And then Ten Hag's coaching in terms of like, let's say Ange, for example, at Spurs, whether Daniel Levy is probably one of the worst owners in football, but look at Paratici, for example. Well, you know what he did at Juve. Paratici is a better director of football than John Murtaugh is. That's the guy who did some shady things at Juve, but he knows much more about football. Look at the players they brought in. Christian Romero, who was one of the highest prospects in Serie A for center back. Bentancur was okay at Juve. They brought in James Maddison at a great price this summer. If Man United were smart, they look at Maddison and Mount, look at the price difference. Especially you go to a relegated team, you pick up Maddison, you find ways to fit him in the team. Pape Matar Sarr, our club would never go to Ligue 1 to a club like Metz and pick someone out. It's like they have a clear set philosophy. If you look at Spurs right now, they're buying at a certain age group. They're not splitting. One day we'll buy an 18-year-old, like Højlund, for example, and the next day we'll go buy a 30-year-old. Like there's like a massive difference. How do you buy players that have 12-year age gaps? That usually doesn't happen at a football club. You typically buy in the same age range. So why are we not doing that? And that's because we have no set philosophy. And that's why I hope with Ratcliffe, if he's taking over the sporting decisions, that he brings in a top director of football, whether it's Paul Mitchell, whether he somehow convinces Michael Edwards to join Man United if they offer him the biggest bag you've ever seen. Just someone that has a clear set philosophy and take the onus of transfer market off Ten Hag, because I feel bad for him in the sense that he has all the pressure to bring in his players. Bro, I'm scared. I was actually scared with Qatari money that these guys are going to give him a 300 mil budget and we're going to start looking like we're going to have a full Dutch team at this point. We're going to go buy from Groningen. We're going to go buy.
You don't trust his assignments.
I don't trust man. I don't want my manager to be picking all the players in the transfer. I want my recruitment team, my scouting team. There's a reason why you have scouts at football. You send them across the world to go find players that fit the manager's style of play. So I want Ten Hag to tell the director of football, this is my style, this is what you want. And then the director of football goes to the scouting team and tells, when you guys
I can agree with this a little bit, yeah. When was the last time Manchester United did what Real Madrid did with Vinny Jr., Cristiano Ronaldo? It's the last time something like this happened, when you bought a young player and you brought him up and he became a superstar. Vinny Jr. for Real Madrid. We saw that Julian Alvarez for Manchester City, even Lautaro Martinez for Inter. Manchester United, the last time, can someone remind me, what is the last time you guys did something like that?
No, we haven't. We haven't had a young player since Jesse Lingard, who's gone on loan and been able to come back.
No, but Jesse Lingard is from your academy. I'm talking about you go scout somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Closest I can think of is Ahmad. When we went to
Ahmad is not a superstar.
No, he's not.
Okay,
it's not going to be. It's not going to be Lautaro.
Vinny wasn't a superstar.
Lautaro Martinez gets Julian Alvarez.
Ahmad's a serious baller. Mo. Don't get it twisted. Ahmad's a very serious, high IQ footballer, but he's not reached that pinnacle yet, and we don't expect him to. To answer your question specifically, we haven't had that.
So the scouting system is non-existent. It's basically buy what's in front of you.
That's not true, because guess who wanted Julian Alvarez? Who wanted Julian Alvarez first? Man United.
But you didn't buy him.
And that whose fault is that? That's the club's fault. But we wanted to buy. The scouts brought Julian Alvarez to the table. Ralph Ragnick brought Julian Alvarez to the table. He's like, buy
Yeah,
this guy.
I know
But no,
Haaland
the
was offered
scouting
when he
network.
was.
With
Haaland
Ramos
didn't join us. He didn't want us.
Højlund was already being scouted before Ten Hag came. What people have to understand, or what I'd like them to understand, if they can take anything from this, is that it's not that we don't have scouting system. I'm not going to sit here and act like we don't have this. We have things in place. It is the people behind them that is running it. And sadly for Ten Hag, yes, whether people think he's got too much power or not, he has to have that power because the structure that he's walked into was not there for him to be able to work his philosophy around, because they don't identify a way of playing and how they want to run their club. Yeah. So sadly, every manager that has to come in now has to rebuild the club. Sadly, you cannot rebuild it from the bottom upwards. It has to come from the top down in football. But really and truly from the top up until board directors, etc., this is just business. So from here underneath, it is simply just the manager. And he can do everything up to this stage. When he gets to here, he needs someone to bridge that gap, because the higher he comes here, the further away he is from where he needs to be, which is focusing on the team and everything else. So sadly, we're going to have to go, and this is why I keep saying, whether you rate a football player or not, if the manager wants a player, you have, as a Man United fan, in my honest opinion, it's wise to back him because he knows more than the board above him. Like a player or not, if he's got a vision and he knows where he wants to go from a footballing perspective, that is the closest we're going to get to a football brain being at our club. Because everyone else behind is not there. Everyone above him, is not there. So it's either, okay, we either back this manager as a fan base and make sure that everyone else around him sorts themselves out, which again is coming for the Glazers, coming for the owners, coming for the board, or it's a simple case of lower your expectations, eat some humble pie, and understand that Ten Hag, regardless of whatever plays he gets, cannot go and dominate the way he wants to. And that way you won't be upset. I'm just trying to save you some heartache, because these false ideologies that we're big Man United is not the case. Yes, we should, would, could. The reality is we are not. And if we are not, we have to look at why. And the simple fact is there is a bridge that has been burnt and has been broken, and that is ultimately always going to fall on every single manager and every single player that comes into this club. You cannot. It's simple. I put a tweet out earlier, and again, it's about structure. It's a simple fact. If you have a structure, it doesn't matter what manager or player you lose, because you can still go and dominate and win. But if you don't have a structure, again, having a certain player or getting rid of a certain player or manager, it doesn't matter, because you're never going to win. You're never going to dominate. You're going to have anomalies like Ange. You'll have anomalies like Leicester City, for example. And that's football. That's the beauty of football. But a lot of people like to use anomalies, the exception to the rule, to make the rule. The exception does not make the rule, people, sadly. The majority will always make the rule. And there are many beautiful stories within football that makes it go, oh, this is achievable, this is capable. Don't get me wrong. It is achievable. It is capable that Ten Hag could do what Ange is doing. He did it in his first season. But the reality is, if you want long-lasting success, there are so many more factors that go into that happening. And from an Ange perspective, those haven't been answered yet. So we can't even have that discussion. From a Ten Hag's perspective, like Greg was saying, last season was an overachievement, given the circumstances. Why? Because we know the bigger issues. That's why we can say it was an overachievement. But on the surface, it looks like Ten Hag's the answer. He's that guy. No, he had to make certain adaptations to make something work. The reality is, can he make that consistent? No. And it never will be. So I didn't go into the season thinking, yes, most definitely. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're going to be that team, because I could see that in order for that to be consistent, there has to be a structure. And if he's going to change the way he wants to play, then we're going to have to take some steps backwards. The fan base don't want to take steps backwards, sadly, like it or not. But for me, like I keep saying, Ten Hag has taken too much of a big step back with the profiles he's brought in, meaning that there's now a bigger gap to fill, and that's a patient situation for the fans and the club to be in. We're not good under pressure. Most managers don't last 2 seasons, so it's a big bollock step for Ten Hag to do what he's doing, and I don't know if he'll be able to see the plan out. With Sir Jim coming in, he's cemented. He may be able to actually get something more consistent set down with a director of football above him and football people. And maybe it can work that way. I will play devil's advocate against my own situation on the Glazers. You may not like this, if you're watching. But I said, I don't mind Glazers running the business how they want to run it because it's their business, so long as they put football first. If they want to take dividends, take dividends. As long as they are investing into the club and everything else, no problem, because it's your business. Put football first, or show us that football matters. Cool. I'll still call you rat owners. You are what you are, but at least you aren't negating, everything that Man United stands for. Just for your own pockets. You're actually putting football first. And if the Jim's going to bring that in, however he does it, then maybe that's the silver lining we have to accept, because the reality is the Glazers are never leaving.
So for the last 5 minutes, I want to just talk about football this season. What do you guys expect? What do you guys, seriously, without the Glazers, without anything? We have 250 people almost here. Hit that like button. Get me to 150 likes. The like button is very important. This is free content. I'm not asking you for anything. Of course, your super chats are welcome because it supports the channel and it keeps us going. So involved in the conversation as well with us, but also the like button is key. 250 people were not on 200 likes. That's embarrassing. Hit that freaking like button underneath the live chat. This is how this channel gets more subscribers. Subscribe if you are new. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And footballing wise, what do you guys want to see this year? How do you want to see, like, without just, you play Sheffield United away, Copenhagen in the Champions League, then it's the Manchester City at home, and it's and it's the Newcastle. How do you guys see the football? What do you guys see Ten Hag? Do you want to see Rashford drop? Do you want to see Bruno drop? Or you don't think the players are the problems at all?
Let you go, Bruce.
First. In terms of the football, obviously, I don't think it's been good, but obviously we have an injury crisis that we have not seen before, which is also on Ten Hag because of the lack of rotation last year, which I criticized on social media and stuff like that. I expect it to get better, to be honest with you. I think the Manchester Derby is the game that could tip the scales. I think if we win the Derby at home, I think that's the kind of game that can catalyst your season. Just like the Brentford result on Saturday. I know people are going to say we struggle past Brentford, but winning a game in that matter, the late comeback and going into international break, you don't have to have all that media talk like on the manager where he gets sacked and stuff like that. I think we'll have a good positive outlook. And in terms of like the squad, I personally I do want to see some players get dropped. I want a more balanced midfield, for example. Obviously, Kobe Manu's coming back. He's a kid I have high hopes on. I think he's going to be a great player in this club, and I think Ten Hag knows that. That's why he's kind of nurtured him, and I think he can be a positive spark into our midfield because that's been our biggest issue this year. There's been a big lack of connection between the midfield and the attack, and I think you just need to have someone in the midfield that can just recycle the ball and have workhorses. I think Ten Hag midfield requires 3 workhorses. You cannot have one player lack any energy. They all have to be on top of their physical game at all 90 minutes. You cannot slack off. I think like a Mainu, I think an Amrabat, I think a Hannibal, I think a Mason Mount, all those 4 players, whether you like them or not, they will not slack off the ball at any point in the game. They will give it their all. So I think that's good. And as for the attack, Rashford's probably in the worst form that he's ever been, especially maybe unless you want to consider 21-22 under Ragnick. I think he just needs to get that one goal. I think when Rashford gets that one goal, when he puts it in the back of the net, I think that just lifts all the expectations, all like the negativity off of him, because we see it, bro. Rashford, you agree with this, bro. Every time last season you saw that guy, he just shot the ball. I've seen him maybe shoot the ball 3 times in the last 3 weeks. That's not something we associate with Rashford, which for me always screams lack of confidence. He's trying to appease the playmaking aspect. So I would keep playing him because Garnacho, he has high hopes, but he's not ready to start making that, especially at the pressure that we're on right now. I don't think it's fair to put that on the kid. So Rashford plays through it, and I think the international break did good for him, get away from the limelight, and I think we'll be fine. Do I think in terms of like, I just want to see wins for the next month. Honestly, I think Danny said it on outside game by game basis. No, I don't want, because when we looked at this fixture run, we probably all thought Galatasaray at home should be a victory. Crystal Palace at home should be a victory. Brentford at home should be easy victory. We barely got through that. Just game by game basis. That's all I want to see for now. Just win every game. Just go game by game basis and perform your best. And that's it.
Najia, I know you have this different opinion about the football, and I heard it many times on the terrace and with Saeed, of course. How do you change the football to look better?
I don't really delve in aesthetics at this stage. I think we've got so caught up in an era that you should play the way Pep plays that people have this ideology that that's how the football should look. And I don't. My opinions never derive from what I want personally. It's what I see in front of me. I have to understand my manager and what he wants in order for me to then make a fair, honest judgment based on what he's trying to do. I will judge a manager by his standards, not my own. If I judge him by my own, then I may as well go get the manager's badges and go coach myself. That's not the reality. So I like to live in the reality. And for me, I can see what Ten Hag's trying to do. I see him winning the ball.
What is he trying to do?
Say again?
What is he trying to do again?
So my people may differ, but my honest opinion, based on what I've seen and based on what I know about Ten Hag, what he's trying to do for this season, not last season, again, is simply winning that ball much higher up and then creating chances from that. However, the shape and the system that he's got, I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. But in order for it to be absolutely bang on, because it's so specific, you need certain profiles. And he doesn't have that, in my opinion. That's why I think he's been a bit naive and a bit stubborn. And I do agree with people when they say he's stubborn and naive. He's always been that. Ajax fans will tell you the same. So that's not an issue. It's pros and cons with everyone.
Can I ask a question before you continue? Why buy Onana if you're going to do that?
Say again?
Why buy Onana if you're going to win the ball high on the pitch? And if you're not going to slow the game down?
Well, there's more than one aspect of just being off the ball and on the ball, Mo. So out of possession, of course, that's what you're going to aim to do. In possession, Onana makes sense, especially when you've got the ball at your feet. It has been able to have the ball in the higher areas. So this is why I understand Mason Mount signing as he's a facilitator. He's not going to be your Pogba. He's not going to give you anything X-ray. He's not going to be that guy. But people have this expectation that he should be he should be a Maddison. How do we know Maddison goes and fits that role that Ten Hag wanted? He won't. So do I think he's a better player? Yes. Is he aesthetically pleasing? Yes. Is he a better creator? Yes. Is he more finesse? Is he more technically gifted? Yes, of course. But that's not the conversation I'm having, because the manager isn't trying to find that. So it doesn't make no sense to me if I'm going to go down that route. And that's just how I think. So call it right or wrong, I'm cool with that. I just don't see the reason or point in having these expectations when it's not, again, it's not applicable to the manager's situation. So to answer your other question, Mo, for me personally, I just want to see us converting chances, because it's always come down to that for me. We don't have clinical forwards. Rashford's got his purple patches. And I think my boy Traps, Uzair Saeed said it perfectly. He's not worried about Rashford because he'll have a purple patch of rubbish. He'll have a purple patch of greatness. But he's not consistent. It is what it is. So we just got to wait for that purple patch of greatness to come through. But just like last season, no matter how we play football, like I said, and I made the statements, it's probably the most infamous statement I've probably made because I got a lot of heat for it, but it's facts, it's happening. I made a prediction that was right. I don't want to be right on this because, again, it affects my club. But like I said, we will concede more this season, but we will create more chances. None of that actually matters because we can't put the ball in the back of the net, and that was the biggest issue last season. So I don't care about how we play. I don't care about how we look. I want the ball going in the back of the net because results are the most important, given the simple fact that managers don't last more than 2 seasons. Ten Hag's been naive, he's been stubborn, and I think it's come to bite him on the arse at this moment in time, and now he's got to find a way out of it. So he's now got to adapt, in my opinion. And given the fact that he may have a little bit more time, may actually settle his nerves a little bit, given the new ownership. And I hope that he can then be a little bit more expressive, drop players like Rashford, Bruno if necessary, as long as he's able to, again, adapt to a level where if you're going to drop a Bruno, for example, make sure you have creatives in other aspects of the team, because I'm a pros and cons man. If you get rid of, I did it with De Gea last season, people got on to me for De Gea. I looked at the pros and cons De Gea had objectively. People just looked at the cons and acted like he had no pros. Now we're looking at it going, oh shit. But some people have to feel before because they don't hear, and that's other part. That's just a life lesson. So for me, Mo, just to finish, I just want to see results. However you get them, I don't care about style. I don't care how it looks. Put the ball in the back of the net, get the 3 points, build the confidence back up, and then slowly chip away at the way you want to play over the long haul, rather than trying to do it in a real short season.
I was like this in the beginning of the season. I said Man United need a style of play, even if there are mistakes that are happening and stuff like that. But it reached a point where, forget the style of play. This collective group cannot get a style of play together. It's all about the results. The players are good enough. Like Rashford is a talented footballer. Bruno is a talented footballer. Højlund. But collectively, I don't think it worked. They work together. It's the same as when Pep Guardiola said some players just don't work with the others.
Correct.
They don't complement each other, and that's a big problem. So I think at this point, it's all about getting the 3 points in any shape or form. This is what matters now, because Manchester United, Chelsea should not be 10th, 11th. That shouldn't happen. There's too big of a fan base, too big of an investment happened in the club to be 10th or 11th. But everybody that watched us, thank you so much, people. We got too many people here. Can you get me to 150 likes before we end? I want to thank my guys, Michael. Thank you so much for your time, Michael. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you, Naji. Always amazing to talk to you guys.
Thank you very much for having us on, man.
I'm so glad that you guys accepted this invitation to come here. Thank you so much. Hopefully it'll get better for you. From a neutral point of view, I really don't care, because Man United was the most hated club in the 90s and the 2000s. I used to hate Manchester United.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see Manchester United fall down, because it takes away from the football. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. We'll see you tonight at 11 UK time for kind of a special show with the Arsenal versus Spurs. We'll say that. You guys asked for panels. But thank you so much for being here, people. Hopefully we'll see you soon. And I'm out of here. Make sure to subscribe, like the video if you're here. And we'll see you guys soon. We're out.
Peace, man.